Hello and good night and welcome to the Mindful Live 199. Yeah, 199 Mindful Live. It is the 20th of the 3rd month 2023 and I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. Tonight we are talking various issues. We started talking tonight about international issues. The International Criminal Court recently issuing an arrest warrant for one Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia. How is that going to be? And some people pointing out that the United States is indeed the global bully to some extent, and yes, but I highlighted that the 199 True Ninja, really, we're one short of 200. And I highlighted that the global bullying business is really just, you're saying empire, which is the strongest empire there. That's what we're talking about. And the world has always had a strongest empire. Basically, one that would have been the strongest across the majority of the world. And then there would be strong empires in localized areas. There were the Aztecs were a brutal empire in ancient Central America. You go back, when the Europeans first touched down in Central America and saw what the Aztecs were doing, they were right to think some of those guys were demons. They were out there doing the most, but they were the biggest bullies in Central America. They were the biggest bullies in South America. They were the biggest bullies in North America. The Comanches, I believe, on the plains, they were decimating the other natives out there. The biggest bullies out there. They were the biggest bullies in Africa with the Dahomey Kingdom. They were decimating their relatives around them and taking them and selling them for slaves, just by the way. So there would always be biggest bullies around. That's not a point. That's not in and of itself a point. The thing is, who are the biggest bullies? And as a small fry, what you could hope for is that the biggest bully is one that generally leaves you alone. Like, for one, as it stands right now, the biggest bully that we have right now, at least they speak English. That's one plus. You know, the global bullies speak English. So one benefit of that for us who also speak English is that most places in the world you go, you're going to find someone speaking English because the global bullies are English speakers. Now, if the global bullies switched over to Russian or Mandarin, we wouldn't have that benefit. So there is that. And the next part of it is that currently the global bullies are capitalists to some extent. I mean, they're selfish, but capitalists to some extent, where they have some belief in free market, which allows a lot of freedom. Their aim isn't necessarily to hold you as captive, taking away your freedom in that sense, but probably more captive to your consumerism, which at least provides you with a lot of goods. Now, that may not be the view of those over in the Far East, per se. Would you be preferable to a communist bully? Would that be a preferable choice to you? Would you prefer a communist bully? As I said, you don't have a choice in getting a bully or not. You have you may have some choice in choosing which bully you take. All right. That's talking some geopolitics, global geopolitics. But I'm coming much more local for the start of this live. My story for today, something that really jumped out to me in the newspaper. I think the headline by itself, when you read the headline on its own, know how long I ain't see you, bro? Well, I've been around, you know. I've been around. Last week I wasn't doing the live. I did one live last week because I was out in the Sister Isle. Big up Bago. But I'm here. Tune in most weeknights and I'm around. If you're looking for me, look at the live. I'm there. But yeah, local article I was reading, and the headline in and of itself, was a head scratcher. Listen to this headline. Just reading the headline alone, and tell me if it doesn't make you go, what? Man freed of rape after victim's hymen shown to be intact. So you didn't do a live from Bago? Nah, man, I didn't have the setup. Next time, I'm going to make sure I walk with my setup. I have to do a Tobago live. But yeah. Man freed of rape after victim's hymen shown to be intact. Now, granted, the topic covers some uh is that even adult topics? No. Some more serious topics, granted. But I think as a serious topic, this is still something interesting. This is still something very interesting. Because I thought of this especially juxtaposed with another story that gripped everyone. With another story that gripped everyone for the day. Another accusation, well, not for the day, for the weekend. Another accusation that got held up in court, where a court told Mr. Croker, hey, you can't sing those lyrics. 14 years after he was accused of rape, an Erin farmer was on Thursday freed following medical evidence that his then 11-year-old accuser's hymen was still intact and she suffered no vaginal bleeding after the alleged incident. People gave birth and had it still intact, True Ninja says. Well, those are anomalies, and in an anomaly like that, upon medical examination, you would see obviously why it would remain intact, because obviously that would be not your regular hymen, but this was your regular hymen that remained intact. For those of you in the live that don't know, the hymen is a little membrane that covers part of the passageway of the vagina, and anything that generally enters it for the first time, generally speaking, large enough, ruptures it. Hey, Tev Phillips, thanks. Yes, it's Nathan's mustache. Yes, it's here. And it generally ruptures it. So if it's not ruptured, it kind of says nothing entered before. This is really interesting. He should counter sue. Chunk says that, added with the fact that the victim said it was rough, etc. in court, is why that was a point. Exactly, Chunks. Seeing that you already read this article. The matter was heard in court. The state was represented according to the evidence presented in the trial, which began on March 6th. She said, the victim said she was 11 years old on December 14, 2009 when the man raped her. The state's main witness, by the way, is now a resident in the USA and testified virtually. I find it very interesting, this fact also. She's now in the USA, no longer in Trinidad. When this case reaches to the court, she's no longer in Trinidad, she's in the USA, testifying virtually. I find that interesting. The incident is said to have occurred at the family's home at Parkridge, Siparia, where the victim lived with her sister as her mother had died sometime before. Garcia also lived in the building with his girlfriend. The alleged victim said he warned her not to tell anyone about what happened. She did not tell her sister about the incident because she was pregnant at the time, but confided to two friends and a teacher on January 18, 2010. WPC Inspector Shelly Ann Reed, who charged Garcia, testified for the prosecution that on January 25th, she took the girl to be medically examined. Reed testified that Dr. Ganga Bhagirathi's medical report found the girl's hymen to be present. The report said, however, there were 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock positions, which were probably caused by penetration. But the problem was, according to, in his closing arguments, Ratiram told the jury that the alleged act described by the girl, that when Garcia was having sex with her, he was very rough and it was very painful, were highly improbable. It is unrealistic that the alleged act, as described by the girl, could have occurred, yet the hymen was still present. There was no vaginal bleeding and no external injuries to her body. He submitted. Now, my question is, how can an accusation like this go on, the man be found innocent, but there not be subsequent charges for this? You see, this isn't something like where an interaction went on, like the court has to decide whether an act that both parties agreed occurred. The court has to decide whether that act crossed a certain line or not. At least you could say, okay, there was an act here and someone could be misunderstanding how this was. Sometimes something may not be a false accusation. It may not be a false accusation, but a misunderstanding. That's how the lady felt, but it wasn't what it was. Okay, fine. That's another matter. But this, according to the man, he was not home at the time this happened. And, according to him, He is saying that very likely in his defense, Garcia testified that the rape charge was fabricated to get him out of the house. He said the girl's aunt was always demanding he pay monies towards the maintenance of the house, apart from a prior agreement to share only electricity and water bills. So this was fabricated. How is this not a crime? Like, to me, I could understand some police may say, well, he needs to press charges. To me, I don't even think that's necessary. I think this should be something that the police proactively investigate and prosecute. Because this isn't only a crime against the man, because it is a crime against the man. You tarnished his reputation here, because bear in mind the accusation isn't only about rape. The accusation is about child rape. The girl was 11 years old. That's the accusation made against him. That's something that sours your reputation. That's not something that's going to come off of your reputation. And then you're risking the man spending decades in prison. Decades in prison you were risking. So it's a crime against the man, but not only against the man. I think it's a crime against the police. It's wasting police time. I think that's a crime against the police. It's a crime against the court system, because it's wasting court system time in an obviously overworked court system. Look how long this case took. 14 years, because the court system is already swamped. You're further swamping a court system that can't afford to take much more. And then it's a crime against future victims, because now you're making it harder for other victims to be believed. They may call that victim blaming. No, it cannot be victim blaming, because the young girl is no longer a victim. Now, the young lady's guardian should be charged, and that's what I'm thinking too. At the time when this allegedly occurred, the young lady was 11 years old. Okay, so I mean, that's a child. You may not want to prosecute a child there. But then again, think about this. 14 years passed. She was 11 years old back then, but this is a 25-year-old young lady now. And if she's still a witness testifying virtually in this case, that means as a 25-year-old young lady with full senses about her, she's continuing the victimization of this man. So even though it may have been her relatives initially put her up to do it, at the age of 25, you're an adult. You have to face the consequences of that too. So while the relatives may need to face prosecution too, I think the young lady also would her name would have to be called in this. And sorry. Here's the thing. If it is that this is a case where somehow this man indeed was guilty, and somehow through some kind of thwarting of the evidence or something like that, he's getting away, I think further prosecuting the case may be even a better chance of catching him. That is the best chance of actually getting justice out of that. What's the feminists' position on this? I don't know. We'd have to ask a feminist about that. Tony the Ambassador says, in too deep, if she recants at this stage, she would have to face charges, I assume. Well, if she doesn't recant, why don't you have to face charges too? Because the conclusion here is that it was a false accusation. That's what this conclusion is. How is there no crime here? And the thing is, in our legal system, there's already consequence for falsely accusing someone of something. This whole madness here with Crow and the businessman from the bamboo. Judge orders Crow to sing sanitized version of song of his contempt charges. The reason for that is because Crow allegedly made an accusation about the man. Crow allegedly accused the man of maybe selling stolen parts. And here's the thing. Accusing a bamboo car dealer of selling stolen parts isn't exactly a groundbreaking accusation. You know, I made a video earlier today, and I was pointing out like that. To me, the equivalent of that is like accusing a Chinese restaurant of selling dog. Like if you come out in Trinidad and Tobago and say, hey, that Chinese restaurant, they sell dog, and I'm like, I mean, it's not a nice thing to say. It's stereotypical. It may indeed be libelous or slanderous. It may indeed be slanderous, yes, but it's pretty common. And I don't think it's going, and I don't think, good evening, Scafty, and I don't think it's going to actually decrease the sales going towards the business. Like, that's the reason for the whole slandering business. Former Calypso Monarch Western Croker Rawlings will only be allowed to perform his sanitized version of his 2023 Calypso. Another Sat is outside again at 2 shows this weekend. In an emergency hearing on Saturday, Justice Frank C. Prasad issued a wider injunction against the Calypsonian in a lawsuit filed by businessman Inshan Ishmael. The whole idea of this is that the by him making this statement, he is degrading the man's reputation. But let's be real. Does the accusation of selling stolen parts degrade a bamboo business's reputation? I personally, this is my opinion, I don't think it does, because that's a common accusation in Trinidad and Tobago. Nearly everyone's shopping in the bamboo already has in their mind that, hey, this might be a stolen part, you know. You just have to watch it carefully. You might be buying back your own part here. That's a common joke in Trinidad and Tobago. Not saying this is separate from saying whether what he said was indeed slanderous or whatever. That's up to the court to decide. But I'm saying on the point of the effect of the accusation. The effect of that accusation, I think, is minuscule. And the lawsuit against the accusation, actually brings more attention to it. There's more attention being highlighted to the fact that one accused the other of maybe selling stolen parts now with the lawsuit than the song ever brought. So let's be real. It's not really about the reputation here. It's about making sure you don't call my name in your mouth kind of business. But that's apart from that. I want to know though, how could such an accusation have so easily have legal consequence, but you could go out there and accuse someone of pedophile acts, risk them spending decades in prison, 14 years of their life fighting a court case, and no consequence? How is that possible? How is that possible? I don't see how that's possible. The thing is, I'm not sure about the law on defamation, to quote it word for word, positive radiation. Tony the Ambassador, I know though in the United States, where you're talking about if it's true, what I was saying there in the United States, they have a higher barrier for their slander laws when it comes to public figures. So you see how the businessman is a public figure. In the United States, it would be nearly impossible for him to sue for defamation. Nearly impossible. And I kind of agree with the US law, because their idea is that being a public figure, you are subject to the public criticism. It's not something that would actually defame your name, where it would knock your reputation, because this is the nature of your vocation. And I agree with that. The idea of defamation is to provide someone with, yes, cease and desist come first, is to provide someone with some recourse if someone is telling lies about them. If you are telling lies about me in the public, something that would damage my reputation, I should have some recourse for that. Because my reputation, the judge said it in this article somewhere here. He spoke about it. Someone's reputation is not a commodity that could be bought and sold. It's something that is built up over time. So it's not something that you could just allow someone to tarnish like that. A person's reputation is not a tradable commodity, but it's a prized possession. It is carefully fashioned over one's lifetime and must be jealously guarded. When an individual's reputation is defiled without justification, damages can never be viewed as an appropriate remedy. So the point there is that your reputation is not something that is easy to, just trade like that. It's something built up slowly over time. However, if you are a public figure, your reputation does not take serious damage from regular banter like that. So I kind of agree with the US law, where the truth and fact is that public figures shouldn't really be able to sue easily for defamation because there aren't any damages. That's the problem, damages. And that's where I see the problem in this. How do you figure damages like this? Because in a case like this, if we're being honest, what this case is not really damages. What kind of monetary damage do you think the Calypso brought to the businessman? Do you honestly think that Calypso brought negative monetary damage to the businessman? The idea of defamation is that, like, okay, I'm a teacher. I teach privately. If someone spreads a rumor about me, like one spread about the previous farmer that we read in the previous article there 14 years ago, that's the kind of rumor that as a teacher it's hard for you to live down. So if someone spread a rumor like that, that's going to directly affect my business. And if it directly affects my business, I am losing money. I should have legal recourse to sue someone and make back money if they lie about me and cause me to lose more money. Fine. Do you think the businessman in this case lost money because of that Calypso? I don't actually think so. I don't think so. So then, what would the damages be? How would you choose damages in that sense? And in that case, the damages wouldn't actually be a matter of it wouldn't be restorative. The damages wouldn't be a matter of, okay, I lost money and they're restoring the money that I lost. The damages, they would be punitive. They would be punishment. They would be punishing him for daring to speak about this. That's what the damages would be there. And in that case, you have to wonder, are you sure you want to punish Calypsonians for speaking things, even if the things may be unproven? Papa Bois say, I will never shop in a place with that reputation. Is that so, Papa Bois? You would never shop in a place with a bad reputation? Are you sure? Are you sure you want to play this game, Papa Bois? Because we could speak about the reputation of the many places that I suppose you already shop. What kind of phone you have by chance? Is it an iPhone? Do you know where the iPhone's batteries come from, perchance? Do you know what factory assembles these iPhones? You know, the reputation? Or is it a Samsung? Is it an Android? Once it has that lithium battery, I could tell you about those batteries. Once it's a smartphone, and you can't say it's not a smartphone and you're here on TikTok. What kind of car do you drive? What business places do you shop at? Like, I don't buy that anyone hearing the reputation that business in the bamboo may have stolen parts is going to refuse shopping at the bamboo. I don't buy it. Funny thing is that businessman is always talking about others in a defamatory way. Now someone who can fund the legal challenge should challenge him too. You see, here's the problem with some of those things. When he speaks, he usually speaks in generalities. And he would speak about the Betham people, or he would speak about the PNM people. And there may be racial undertones with what he says. There would be location, geographical undertones with what he says. But he isn't speaking about any one person. Betham cannot come together as an entity and sue him for defamation. That doesn't happen. The Lavantil folks can't come together as an entity and sue him for defamation. PNM supporters can't come together and sue him for defamation. People of African descent can't come together and sue him for defamation. That's the nature of those things. The problem with the Calypso is that it got pretty specific. It got so specific, I believe there was a name mentioned in it also. There were names called in it. And names called jumps out of the generalization thing. You could speak the most disgusting insults about generalized communities, basically speaking, and you won't have much consequence coming. But to speak it about someone specific. But even with generalized, you see, some people are mistaken and talk about freedom of speech. Always bear in mind, Trinidad and Tobago does not have freedom of speech. That freedom of speech and First Amendment talk that people talk about, that's in the United States. That's not a Trinidad and Tobago thing. No, we don't have freedom of speech here. Try cussing the police and you recognize that real quickly. So even if you say things about a wider group and you say it too off-putting, there may be some charges that could be brought to you. And that's like, for example, I believe Satmaraj himself got himself in some of those problems with the sedition charges and all of that. They would say that, you know, you're stirring up discontent in the society and you could face charges for that. But to me, personally, though, I don't even agree with that. I don't agree with you charging people over things they say like that. Personally, my view. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think you'd get positive out of that like that. All right. Now, the USA no longer has freedom of speech. Huh? Okay, I can agree with that, Evelyn Ferreira. It no longer has it to the same extent, but I mean, even when they spoke about it to a much more extreme extent, I don't think there ever was true freedom of speech. There always were limitations on speech to some extent, but yeah, some limitations are getting stronger and stronger because they are having some battles now. Some of the battles between wondering if there should be limitations on speech as speech becomes more and more powerful with the advent of social media. Speech no longer is necessarily one-to-one or one to a group in an event. One random person could speak to millions of people at the press of a button. Hey, good night, look at you, good night. And you know, someone was talking about the legal problems in the country and that, yes, this matter is in before the courts. And, you know, highlighting previously the issue where the former prime minister had his whole matter thrown out. And I was pointing out that part of the reason that whole matter could have been thrown out, where the DPP spoke about it, part of the reason was because they have the money to stretch them out. There's a reason a certain public figure of the phrase it is alleged, yes. Yeah, if you have the money, you could stretch out a legal case. And stretching out a legal case is nearly the same as getting away with it. That's the way our legal system works. If you have enough resources to stretch out a legal case for the longest while, you may get away with it. And I was looking at the same thing fixing to happen again. A repeat of history. When this case, and I'm telling you now, take my word for it now, when this case eventually falls through, for the very same reason, we'd look back at this and see, well, we saw how and why it happened. Remember, I was speaking about the case with the Prime Minister, where the former Prime Minister, Mr. Basu Pandey, where his case was thrown out, his corruption case with the Piako airport scandal. And the reason was it basically took too long. The amount of time the case took, the witnesses died out. Some of the witnesses died. Some of the witnesses were too old. They couldn't be found anymore. So the case made no sense going forward anymore. The case, the alleged corruption happened in 97 or something like that. The case was eventually thrown out this year, 2023. It doesn't make sense. The case just was stretched out too long. You can no longer prove a case like that. So stretching out a case is kind of a key way that many of these wealthy officials escape with corruption. And on that note, let's look at another story. Ananram Logan's challenge of witness tampering case goes to January 2024. A High Court judge will on June 28 rule on if the Director of Public Prosecution should be included in a constitutional claim filed by former Attorney General Ananram Logan relating to the criminal prosecution of him for alleged witness tampering. So, listen, if you all want to read through the entirety of this, feel free to read through. But it's like a maze. Let me start reading, and I can promise you that you all are going to phase out of it for a while. Let me start reading. On Friday, Justice Nadia Kanglu set the date for the ruling on if the DPP will be made an interested party in Ramlogan's claim to provide assistance to the court. The issue of the DPP's position was raised as a conundrum at Friday's hearing when Ramlogan's lead attorney Peter Carter Casey said if the DPP wanted to join the matter, he could make formal applications so the judge can rule if there's a justification for him to be joined. Carter admitted the DPP was served with application as a matter of courtesy, since Ramlogan's claim was based on evidence which will be used in the criminal trial. Senior counsel Ian Benjamin, who appears for the DPP, said it was entirely for Ramlogan to decide who the defendants in the claim, and it just goes on and goes on like that. Basically, the Attorney General, former Attorney General, is accused of witness tampering. Since 2013, the accusation was made somewhere around there. He was charged, I believe, in 2017. But he is suing for constitutional matters around his charges. So he's suing on if this charge was brought up wrongfully in the first place. And now they're deciding on the lawsuit that he's suing about his charges. They're saying if they're going to bring the DPP into the lawsuit that he's suing about his charges. This isn't his charges yet. I hope you all aren't getting confused. We haven't reached to his actual case yet. This is now the lawsuit about who could charge him in his case. And that lawsuit is now postponed to 2024. You all understanding this? So, the substantive matter wouldn't even be called at least by next year. And then, let's say he loses that matter that is called in 2024. Do you know what he's going to do next? He's going to appeal it. And after he appeals it, that's going to take a couple months. And you know, if he loses in the appeal court in Trinidad and Tobago, you know what he's going to do next? Appeal it to the Privy Council. That's going to take a few months. And then that might be late 2025, maybe 2026 by then. Okay. And now we could go ahead with the substantive matter. Back into the witness tampering charges against the former Attorney General. When that matter reaches to court, his attorneys are going to say, well, actually, Your Honor, we have another judicial review matter to raise, and the judge is going to be, well, okay, well, this is adjourned for postponed for another date, and then they're going to set another court date, probably in 2027, for the next matter, and then they're going to have to decide who are the parties involved in that next matter. They'll decide that by 2028, and maybe the next matter will reach the Privy Council by 2030. By 2030, the next matter may reach the Privy Council and finish. And even if he loses that matter in 2031, then the witness tampering charges may come up. But then in 2031, by then, that would have been about 17 years away. And all the witnesses dead, migrate, too old, don't care, irrelevant. And like when you read things like this, you see that the justice system is by no means just. If you as a poor person stole some money, you would be in jail by the next day. There would be no consecutive court cases trying to ascertain how guilty you are. The strange thing in many of these cases, when you read the evidence in many of these cases, the questions are hardly ever whether the people are guilty or not, you know. It's like the evidence would read that Mr. X, that Mr. X went to Mr. Y and on camera requested from Mr. Y a bribe of $50 million. And they signed a document proving that Mr. X requested this bribe from Mr. Y. And they have all of that documented. So the evidence is never a matter. You know what sometimes is the matter? When the police arrested Mr. X, they didn't have a warrant to search his computer. They only had a warrant to search his foyer. And they went onto his computer. So the evidence from his computer now cannot be admitted. And we now have to go to the Privy Council to decide if that evidence can be admitted to court. And then even if the Privy Council says it could be admitted, by the time you figure out that that's 5 years gone. How do we solve this, Tony the Ambassador asks? Better prosecution. That's one clear way. Because it seems to me, and when you read enough of these issues, it seems to me like a party with a few people partying and we aren't involved. The country seems to be run like a money laundering facility for lawyers. Lawyers making laws, lawyers prosecuting cases, lawyers pushing cases, lawyers defending cases, and lawyers making money hand and fist over and over and over and over, regardless of how it all turns out. The system is set up for lawyers to keep making money. That's the nature of the system. We need more effective prosecution. That's a large part of it. It seems like everyone knows the loopholes except the ordinary man and woman. It's not just that they know the loopholes, they create the loopholes. These were the same people forming the laws, then the same people are out there defending it. It's just the same, it's an incestuous group. The legal profession combined with the legislative branch is an incestuous group. They're all out there practicing law, then in there forming the laws, then in there escaping the laws. It's the same group of people. All of them are the same people, rubbing shoulders with each other. All of them, same groups over and over and over. You see, like, these are the benefits that larger places could have. Where, like, if the Caribbean was a federation where Jamaica was a state and Trinidad was a state, the state of Jamaica may not have vested interest in the state of Trinidad's lawyers. So we could go outside to Jamaica and hopefully find some people who would effectively prosecute them here. But it's very difficult to do here. It's very difficult. We're in a system where the same people we're complaining about are the same people we have to complain to. If you have to ask them to create laws to stop these loopholes, it's the same people there. Could you imagine back in 2012 if you had to request that you wanted our government to write laws to make sure that white-collar criminals do not escape prosecution? You would have had to have been requesting that from a present person who is being accused of the very same kind of crime. Powerful stuff, but do you have an idea how to fix this permanently? No, I don't. I really don't. I don't think there is a way to fix this permanently like that. And part of the reason that we talk about it is so that people understand that reality. And you don't have any illusions when they speak to you. When party after party comes in and speaks about, well, we're going to prosecute this one and we're going to prosecute that one and we're going to prosecute that one, very likely what they're going to do is give heaping loads of money to another couple lawyers and get no progress done on it. That's very likely what's going to come of it. The nature of those prosecutions. You see, that's why Positive Radiation says, I want to elect a foolish prime minister. I understand what you're saying. That's why, for me, when I think about government and politics, nearly all of my views of government and politics is less power, less power, less power. What do I want? Give them less power. Do I want them to help me? No, don't help me. Because helping me involves giving them the power to help me. You understand that? If I want the government to give me a house, I have to give the government the power to own land and build houses. I prefer they don't even have that power. Any question you ask me, what do I think? Give them less power. The problem is, I think in Trinidad and Tobago, our general culture is a culture where we want the government to take care of everything for us. We assume that is the role of the government, that there are entire sections of our population that will outwardly tell their children, don't worry about that, when you get big you will get a government work. No, don't look for a government work. You don't want the government to employ people. The help they give, they take back more. There's a strong feeling of hopelessness for the regular guy. Yeah, there could be a feeling of hopelessness if you believe that your hope came from the politicians in and of the first place. That's my very point. That's my very point. We have too much hope in the politicians in the first place. We believe that, that's why so many people in Trinidad are hopped up on the idea when the next big thing comes out. Okay, that party is bad, but you see that new fella, you hear how that new fella talking. If you give that new fella some power, boy, you see PNM and UNC is the girl of PNM and UNC. If you put that next man in there, yeah, he's different, and he's a different kind of soul. Then, yeah. He don't just talk. Yeah, he's just talk too. Same thing. That's the problem. You have the hope in the wrong thing. Your hope is supposed to be one in yourself, two in God, and in fixing the culture. If you want to fix something, fix the culture. That's what you do. You work with things around you to fix the culture. That you have the effect on those things around you, hoping that you would somehow be able to vote for some magical politician who is going to go in there and make all of the right decisions that's going to change things around positively. That's a fool's hope. Should make t-shirt with that. Give them less power. I could agree with that. But the regular guy has a vote. A vote is critical. I believe that to positive relation. Anthony Williams says the government is put in place to drive economic growth when it comes to sectors. That's not what a government is put in place to do, Anthony Williams. You are incorrect. That to me is the problem with leftist governments. That's the problem with governments in Caribbean countries. That's the problem with governments in Africa. That's the problem with governments in South America. They believe that their duty as a government is to push economic growth, to make the economy run. No, that's not your duty. Your duty is to facilitate and move out the way. Very often when a government thinks that their job is to make economic growth happen, they end up getting in the way of actual economic drivers. People who want to actually go in there and make the economy grow, allow the economy to keep churning, the government comes in there with their clumsy self, and so I could go close our borders. What? I don't even understand the corollary there. Willie Beng says fixing our culture is one of our biggest hurdles, if not the biggest. It is the biggest. It is the biggest. And here's the thing. I think people always look way too large. If you're feeling hopeless, it's because you're looking on the wrong scale. It's like people, I was looking at a video on Twitter recently, a video where someone was showing that in the next 4 billion years, the Andromeda galaxy is going to collide with the Milky Way galaxy, and what that's going to do, the both galaxies are going to kind of vibrate and explode and everything, and it is basically going to die in a heat death and all of that and all of that. And okay. But that's 4 billion years in the future. Like, even if you believe that, that's 4 billion years. If I am hopeless thinking about the possibility that Andromeda, I am depressed because the Andromeda galaxy is going to destroy everything we know on this Milky Way galaxy. I'm thinking on the wrong time scale. 4 billion years is not my business. I'm supposed to be thinking on a time scale that I actually have control over. I could do something with. So if I'm thinking about the culture and I'm thinking about Western culture, the massive, humongous nonsense that is the entire Western culture and the state of Western culture, of course you can't do anything singularly about Western culture unless you're the god of the West singularly. That's not going to happen. But if you're talking about culture, about your family, how about that? Culture about your community. You could try to change the culture in your community. You could try to change the culture in your family. Or if that's still too big, if your community is too big, I don't have any effect on that. If my family is too big, I don't have any effect on that. Well, then me in my relationship, my direct relationship with my significant other, the culture that we have in between each other, if that doesn't work, then the culture I have with me and me alone internally. Anthony Williams says, the government protects the growth and development of the 1%, so why not the people? You see, here's the problem with that, Anthony Williams. Here's the problem with that. The problem with people that think like that. The government protects the interests of the 1%. So what we really want is we want the government to turn around and start protecting the interests of everybody. So we want to give the government the power to take it away from the 1% and give it to everybody and protect their interests. Okay. Who is going to do that? The same people right now that are protecting the interests of the 1%, those same people? Okay. So, let me see if I get this right. You believe that humans, given power to create a system, have created a system where they protect the 1%. So what we need to do is give them a little more power, and if we give them more power, what they're going to do is stop protecting the 1%, stop protecting it, and change around and actually protect the people. No. But no, it's not the same people. Here's what we need to do. Here's what we need to do. We need to go out there and look for people in the society, elect some other people, and give them the power. And what they would do is then they would take the power and allot it properly. So how do you suppose that the government is going to start to look after the interests and development of the other 99%? You're saying the present government looks after the interests of the 1%. How do you propose making the government look after the interests of the 9%? How are you going to make that happen? How do you suppose that happens? How? We take from the 1%, we saying development our people. Okay. Who is the we that takes from the 1%? Who is the we? The 99%? How does the 99% take from the 1%? Is it that all the other 99%, you allow them to have access to the bank accounts of the 1%? Or when you say we, do you actually mean the government? And the government collects high taxes from the 1%. The government takes the money from the 1%, and the government promises that they are going to redistribute it to the other 99% really fairly. And what kind of fool do you take the population for if that's the case? Proper and simple taxation. Yes, Sasha Orb, I know that's what you're saying. Where does the taxes go? This is what taxation is. If I have $20, do I think I would spend the $20 more effectively? Or do I think Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley would spend the $20 more effectively? Increasing taxes is giving a bigger proportion of my 20 to Dr. Rowley, hoping that he would spend it more effectively and efficiently than me. You see, when people say the 99% and the 1%, the problem they have is there is no 99%. There is no way for the 99% to make decisions on their own. The 99% could only make decisions through a representative. And what eventually happens by that happening is that no longer you have a 99%, you have a representative of the 99% who then makes themselves the 1%. Meant we do not have to take from the 1% to develop our people. Or we do not have to take from the 1%. Okay, so I guess you're talking about something different from Sasha Orb. Sasha Orb is talking about taxation. What are you talking about then, Anthony Williams? How do we not take from the 1%, but the government drives the economy? That's what happens now. Sasha Orb, that's what always happens. Like, I don't know why people believe that there's going to somehow be a system where you're going to be able to take the money from the 1% and there's nothing that they could do about it. They are the 1% because they have the power. That's why they are the 1%. How are you going to propose that they not have that power? Do you know anywhere in the world that they have done it? What they have done? The only way you do it is you get viciously violent. And you know what happens if you get viciously violent? They had it in Cuba, they had it in East Germany, they had it in the Soviet Union, they had it in Mao's China, they had it in North Korea, they had it in Vietnam, everywhere. They had it in Venezuela. The wealthiest people leave because they have the resources to leave. That's what happens. When you start taking from the wealthiest people, they take their resources and they leave. They're not going to stay. So that's what I'm saying. It's beyond the idea of if it's a good thing to take from the 1% and spread it around. Like, let's perish that thought. Let's think about realistically. How do we do it? Willie Beng says it's really tough, comes down to education, imparting knowledge to those who want it. Now there's where we get into it, Willie Beng. I believe how the government facilitates economic growth is by facilitating free market conditions. Two things: property rights and free market conditions. And now property rights has some sectors state. So what property rights means, generally speaking, is I have the ability to own things. No pal hate, no. All we have to do is empower our people and they can take we oil and gas. And okay. I'm not understanding what you're saying there. So the property rights section. The property rights section. There are some points to it. I have to be able to own something. And I'll tell you why this is the most important part for economic growth. I'll tell you why. I have to be able to own something. Now, in order for me to be able to own it, I have to be able to protect it. So, crime kills the idea of property rights. Crime destroys property rights. I can't own something if criminals could just walk in and take it. So, a problem in Trinidad and Tobago is the crime. That's a purpose of the government. They're shirking their responsibility for ensuring property rights by decreasing the crime and criminality. You want to increase the economic growth in Trinidad? That's one. Structural reform is an idea that comes to mind. And the reason for property rights is because I should have the freedom, the free market, to trade my property. If I could own something, I could trade it. And that's how wealth is grown. That's how wealth is grown. You look to China. China had the whole planned economy business. They were trying it and they were killing their population with starvation and poverty. What they did, they brought in the British Commonwealth, not Commonwealth, the British common law system, the British common law system with property laws and property rights. And that dragged 30 million people out, or 300 million people of their population out of poverty in a quick time. Because people make best decisions for themselves. That's how it happens. Dr. Rowley isn't going to trade my things the best. If I could grow a pumpkin and sell my pumpkin and get the value of the labor of my pumpkin, I will be incentivized to grow more pumpkins. What makes me not want to grow a pumpkin is if Dr. Rowley gives me the money and tells me go out and buy pumpkin. Then I have no need to grow pumpkins and it decreases the productivity of the entire country. It may also have to be selfish movement because we see that we have difficulty when mobilizing. Each person build themselves and then we build generational wealth. Personally, we would in turn progress as a collective. Willie Beng, that's what free market depends on. You see, the point I'm making is that I can't depend on another human's selflessness. I can never depend on giving a politician so much power that hoping they will be selfless, and if they are selfless, then they would help us around in it. No, the idea of the free market is we depend on the selfishness of people. Everyone is going to seek their own best interest. And this system works by depending on everyone to seek their best interest. The guy who grows the tomato seeks his best interest from the guy who's buying the tomato. The guy who's buying the tomato seeks his best interest when he's buying the tomato. So together, they work out a market price that is the best for the entirety of the market. How many new funeral homes, security companies, and CCTV? Most businessmen I talk to, it's not just crime, but corruption in government. Corruption in government is crime. So how do you reduce the already high prices of property? Property in Trinidad is a strange thing, Sasha. In Trinidad and Tobago, property is a strange thing. Here's why. The vast majority of land in Trinidad and Tobago is owned by the state. The vast majority of land. Legally, state land cannot be sold. Yet still it is sold regularly. So that's one problem right there. If I wanted to reduce the price on land, I would want to bring land into the free market. The problem in Trinidad and Tobago is land because the state is so involved in land, it is not a free market commodity. People don't buy and sell land in Trinidad as a commodity like that. If you get a piece of land in Trinidad and Tobago, the way how the culture is, the way because state owns so much of the land is already hedged off by the state. If you get a piece of land, it's to hold it on to your dear life. Land don't spoil, you're not selling that for anything. Anthony Williams says, but you all don't have a free market policy towards protecting local business from government. Well, therein is where the government can say that. Therein. And I agree. Anthony Williams, that's the point I was making. That we need policies like that. We don't need the government to go in there and try to make economic growth happen. No, we need policies that protect the free market from the government, that pull the government out of the free market. When we have, for example, Tobago, regularly when we're talking Tobago issues on a Wednesday, we talk about this. When we have the government in Tobago employing the vast majority of the employment sector, the job market in Tobago, it's hard for people to even get to employ anyone else because they could always go out there and get a government job. Business people in Trinidad and Tobago have been lamenting about CPEP and URP for years. CPEP and URP kind of do an injustice to the job market. Many people at the lower end of the job market don't have the necessary impetus to go out there and get a job. Listen, the reality is some desperation is needed to go out and do some jobs. That's life. That's the reality of life. If you don't go out and work, you're going to die of hunger. Hunger gets kind of desperate on you, so you go out and do some work. If there's a way for you to get free labor without doing the work, then you're not going to get yourself involved in the labor market. Positive Radiation says government making laws to keep the government out. Ha! Yes, that's the thing, Positive Radiation. That's the same point I was just making. Anthony Williams says it's the government that will never pass the free market policy because it will take from the 1%. Yeah, true. But it's not just it will take from the 1%, it will take from their power. And which government wants to take their power away? I don't think I'll see a time where a government wants to decrease their own power like that. All right. It's closing in on 11 o'clock, people, and my voice is starting to tell me that, you know, we have to ease our way back into this. We have to ease our way back into it. Any further comments or questions before I dive out? Good night, Sasha Orb. I enjoyed you in the live. I enjoyed the chat. And anyone in the live, that's what the live is there for, you know. Don't think you just be listening to me and what I'm saying is assumed to be correct. You could push back. You could comment, you could question. The 1% is the power and has the ownership of your government. Where is that not the truth, Anthony Williams? Where in the world is it that the 1% don't have the power? Where is that not the case? That's like we started talking about tonight with the United States being global bullies. Yes, they are the global bullies because they are the strongest global empire. And that has always been the case. There has always been a strongest global empire. There's always the 1%. Every system has the 1%. Show me a system without the 1%. Every single system has it. 1% of the lawyers make more money than 99% of the other lawyers. 1% of all supermarkets make more money than 99% of the other supermarkets. 1% of the contractors make more money than 99% of the other contractors. 1% of the OnlyFans models makes more money than 99% of the other OnlyFans people. It's called the Pareto distribution. No, Pareto distribution. Pareto distribution. And it's something in nature where you have in nature 1% of the trees absorb 99% of the energy. It seems to be something that happens naturally. Yeah, I knew people may not have been expecting that one, but it's true. It's fact. It's a fact. 1% of the actors in the world get more money than the other 99% of actors. 1% of the music recording artists have 99% of the hits. 1% of the football clubs of the world have 99% of the trophies. 1% of the NBA teams have 99% of the wins. 1% of the NBA players get 99% of the money. 1% of the football players get 99% of the money. That's just the system. Now, I mean, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it is a thing. Bro, that free market policy will change that here and will create jobs and wealth for people. I agree. I don't disagree with that. If we could create a better free market in Trinidad and Tobago, it will help. I don't disagree. But I'm just saying that even in places with stronger free market systems, they also have the 1% too. The United States may be one of the biggest free market places in the world. They push for that free market thing to the max. And they were the place that had the Occupy Wall Street movement. And the Occupy Wall Street movement was a whole 99% versus the 1% kind of movement. So it's not, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm saying it's the nature of systems. They tend towards that, and we have to fight against it, granted, but it's what it tends to. It will bring better living and minimum wages. I have a plan. If you mention minimum wages, I don't like your plan, Anthony Williams. My apologies. The minimum wage is 0. And the higher you raise the minimum wage, you make it that the minimum wage is either $15 or 0. If you raise the minimum wage to 20, the minimum wage is either $20 or 0. So anyone whose labor is actually worth $15, they will not be employed. That's what happens. The minimum wage doesn't force better payment. Listen, people employ people all the time and they don't pay them the minimum wage. The key to increasing people's wage is not minimum wage. That's a horrible plan. Horrible. That again is the government trying to get in on the economy. That again is the government believing that they make economic growth. No, you don't make economic growth. You kill the gas station workers. Now the man who could have gone out in the gas station get paid $10 an hour, but made some extra in the side hustle because the gas station would hire all of them because they don't need to pay them that much. They can't get a job. You destroy the apprentice market with that minimum wage talk. And we've seen it happen. Since the creation of minimum wage, all the entry-level jobs are disappearing. And then people wonder, why is it that all the jobs at the entry level are asking for 5 years experience? They're asking for 5 years experience because if they are going to pay someone $25 an hour, they need you to have 5 years experience. They're not going to pay you fresh greenhorn, fresh out of school, $25 an hour. You are worth $5 an hour. And you would have worked for it. But now the government got involved in what is not the government's business. And now you can't be employed. Anthony Williams, you seem to be struggling with the free market idea. If you are doing a free market, you will not have a minimum wage. Free market, the market decides those things. It's free for the market to decide. If you're talking free market but then talking minimum wage, what you're leaning down the side of is crony capitalism, which is the same thing we have right now, where they say we have a free market, but then the government puts their thumb on the scale in different areas, saying that what we're trying to do is help. So we'll do a minimum wage and put their thumb on the scale, and then you recognize that actually only Price Smart and Massey and Extra Foods, the largest supermarkets, are the only ones who could actually pay the minimum wage. So what happens is all the small groceries drop out. And that free market idea ends up being a free market for big groceries, because mom and pop grocery mini mart on the corner that employed their nephew for $50 a day when he was off in holidays, now they can't employ him for that. Don't worry, he'll go and work for Extra Foods. That's what that idea is going to create. Anyhow, it was nice, folks. As per usual, it's always nice. This has been the Mindful Live. This has been the Mindful Live. Anthony Williams, I remember you, I remember you were the one saying that we bring back all of the ISIS members without any problems. So I am struggling thinking about all of your ideas. You say you have a plan, and your plan is free market with some buts. and bringing back all ISIS fighters. All right, folks, it was nice. I will see you guys again. And Anthony, you could jump in tomorrow. You could jump into the live and we could actually have the discussion where you could get to talk and I will reply. I will see you guys again for the next Mindful Live session, which will be tomorrow evening around that 9:50, 9:30 time period, and I will see you guys then. Peace, folks. Laters. Hold it down.